This is on the stewardship and ownership. Now, I'm serving the conference as a member, and I teach at Oakwood. I would be glad to come to your church, some of your pastors I've talked to, as you go through this here, and I'll spend a whole weekend with you. And we, because there are 4 other sessions on debt and budgets and so forth. But this is the first session. So if you like it, you think it'll be beneficial, talk to your church, and I'll be glad to come. All right. Question number 1. Let me go here first. What is your question, and tell us what you concluded. Who's your spokesperson? Come on, we got to.
Question number 1.
Oh yeah, question number 1. All right. There may not be an order, so I'm walking as I go. So just bear with me. All right. Read that question and tell us what you came up with. Come on and stand up, like we do our students in class. Look at the class. Don't just look at me. Okay. Read the question and tell us what you got.
What would you do? The church board votes to hold the conference remittance until the conference administration does what they want in a particular situation.
All right, so what did you all decide? Are you going to hold the remittance, or are you going to follow the church board, or what? Or you just said, you know what, I take the 5th, we don't know what to do?
First of all, the church board cannot do that. We'd have to take it to the body, and the body would have to vote. And then after the body votes to hold the remittance, then we felt it would be right to contact the conference and see what's legal. And if it's legal to hold it, we'll hold it. And if it's not, they're going to have to get a new treasurer.
All right. Now, let me share something with you with the remittance. The only funds that belong to the local church are local church funds.
That's right.
Conference funds do not belong to the church. So the church has no authority over conference funds. Tithe, mission funds, and so forth. The church has no authority to withhold that. The only authority that the church has is how much pressure it can put on the treasurer. That's why I talked about the person of the treasurer. So the treasurer, that's why we have the church manual and those guidelines. You have to decide, whom will you serve? Are you going to be faithful to your position and your responsibility, or are you going to allow yourself to fold under the pressures of the church? And it is not easy. I want you to understand, it is not easy to do. But in the long run, people will respect you for doing what is right. We are members of a church body. We're not congregational. I'm going to talk about that in here. So you want to follow what's right. That church manual, always hold the manual up. This is what governs the church. This is what we should be following. Because if I go crazy, I used to tell my staff, if I was the treasurer, if I go start acting crazy and all this other stuff, and I want you to write me checks and no, you go to, I tell them, you go to the union treasurer. Or the administration, or go to the union treasurer and tell them that the conference treasurer is going crazy. That's what you do. You don't internalize that stuff and just do what I ask you. No, you have guidelines. Follow the guidelines. If there are problems, contact the conference treasurer. I have people that call me all over the country that are treasurers and individuals who are friends of mine in local churches, and they go through situations, and I tell them, contact the conference treasurer. He'll know what to do. And just let it be known, if people are putting pressure on you, just tell the church board when you go in there, I don't know what all this pressure is on me. I'm just trying to follow the manual. And people want me to do things outside of the manual. What should I do? Well, you know what they're going to say, follow, but don't let them beat you with the rubber hose and you don't say nothing. Go where there's some people at so they can have it on video or something like that, so you can follow your manual and contact and stay in touch with the treasurer, the auditor. Follow your manual, because when they come down, they're going to be auditing your books based upon those guidelines and policies. It's not easy, but the Lord will keep you. What do you say? All right, let's go to this next one back here. Just follow me with this camera here. What question? What you got? Who's our spokesperson? All right, stand up.
We had Team 3, and our question was, what would you do? The church is spending way too much money than it takes in. However, you are not allowed to tell the people. The church is in debt and overextended financially. What would you do? What should you do?
All right, so you're spending more money than what you have. It may be that you went into a building project, you got a mortgage you couldn't afford, You stretch the truth because we're operating by faith. Now you can't pay your obligations. Sabbath school okay. Oh, yes, thank you very much. What do? You let the church know what's going on. Yeah, don't keep it to yourself, okay? And I'm moving because I want to get in there and they walk. Now, that's the preacher side, so she watch that time because I'll get away from you. All right, who's question here? So, your financial statements, your budget, let the people know when you have your board meetings and your business sessions the state of the church, and then let them make decisions in order to get that budget under control. There you go. Yes.
The question is, what would you do? You are experiencing some personal financial problems. You're tempted to use some church funds for your personal use, but repay it with interest. Nobody will know. What would you do? What should you do?
All right. What do? Is the treasurer authorized to use church funds for their own personal? What if the treasurer feels like I've been working hard, I'm not appreciated, and so forth? All right, so we clear on that one, right? Okay, all right. Because the devil's going to tempt you. But the Lord is greater than the devil. Yes. Oh, this young lady here? The second group here, if the church has more expenses than they have money, do you tell the church that you over-leveraged, or do you keep it to yourself and that's the question. You let the people know. You report the financial position to the board and to the church, and they have to make decisions. Well, no, at the board meeting and to the church. When you have your business session, you let the church know you should be giving financial reports to the church. So you let the church know that this is the position of the church. Because the church will vote things based upon what they think you got. And that's not the case at all. They'll say, find the money. No, this is what it is, so we don't want to be finding money. Yes, sister.
Okay, our question is, the church votes a new treasurer and the old treasurer refuses to turn over the records until an audit is performed by the conference. What should you do?
What should you do? All right, what did you say? Did y'all say?
Now, well, we did say that even though audit will be performed and the records will be cleared, but then when a new treasurer takes office, that all records should be turned over to the new treasurer.
Okay, so, and if you have any problems getting records, again, you go to the board, the pastor, the board. If that doesn't work, you let the conference treasurer know, and the treasury, and they will direct you in terms of what you need to do. Don't take it personal. It's not ours. It belongs to the church. Are we in agreement on that? Now, sometimes we forget that, but it's the church records. It's not our records. Question here. Who's over here? All right, yeah, it's the church records. It's not your records, and it's not your money. All right, that's what got Judas in trouble.
All right. Number 5, you have been treasurer for a while and want to simply quit and do something else. However, the church is limited in size and no one seems to be interested in replacing your position. What would you do?
What do you do?
Father.
All right, because the church treasurer is a calling. It's a ministry, isn't it? It's a ministry, and part of our ministry and talents, the Lord expects us to use the talents that he's given us. They're not ours. So if he's given us the talent and ability, and there's a need, then we are called to fulfill that need. Are you all with me out there? Though he slay me, yet will I what? All right, just be faithful. Because the Lord says, don't worry about it. I've called you, and so I will keep you. Be faithful. Yes, question here? I'm sorry. You got, all right, I'm sorry.
All right. The Treasury Department is not productive. The reports are late, and the work such as bank statements and ledger postings are not being done in a timely manner.
So what? What should you want? What do you do?
Well, I've not experienced this because I'm kind of a decent and in order person. But if I would go into a situation like this, I'm gonna call my team together and make sure that everybody's doing the things that they need to be doing.
Okay, so you want to make sure that's being capable. When you're capable, you have to build a team. Everybody wants to go into an organization that's ready to win a championship. But when the Lord is able to use you to build a team, to develop people, that's a wonderful experience. And so if things are not being done, again, do what you can to build a team. Meetings such as this, treasurer's training, talking to the auditor and the treasury staff, they will give you tools to equip your department. But you want to create an atmosphere where people are willing to serve and take pride in doing things right. Is that all right? All right. Last question.
The pastor of the church is not returning a faithful tithe. The conference has asked for the tithes auditor report for the pastor. The conference is not aware of the pastor's lack of tithes and offering. So evidently, there's got to be a new pastor at that church.
What do you do?
So what we do, one of the sisters said, first thing we do is come together with the financial team and we'll pray for the pastor. After that, we'll find out, do we have more than one church? If we do, we'll get in touch with the other treasurer of the other church to see if he's giving at that church. And if he's not giving at all, we'll get with the elders and we sit down and talk to the pastor, see what kind of situation he's in before we make our report to the conference.
So the spiritual team, the ministerial team will come together to minister to the pastor. And that's I like that approach there. Because if you can save a brother, you try to save him and restore him and redeem him. If that doesn't work, because eventually when those audit reports are called for, the treasurer, the conference will find out. So we want to be redemptive in terms of our ministry with one another. Not so much going off and say, you know, Pastor, you ain't doing nothing in the business. No, we don't want to minister to your pastor. He knows and you know. And sometimes all you have to do is look at him or look at her, and they know. So we want to be proactive in ministry. All right, now we're going to go through this here. We won't spend time on all of it. We've got about 15 minutes left, and then we're going to wrap up. But this session here, you have the handouts, and it's reflective. It's not going to be on the PowerPoint, but this is part of a 5-session stewardship comprehensive seminar. But Treasury, I always start off with Treasury because that lays the foundation. So whose money is it if it's not mine? And again, as the treasurer, it's not our money. Whose money is it? So in the first session, and you can write in and fill in the blank, if you like to, this is your reflective page, something to think about. Who owns everything? Psalms 24:11, the earth belongs to who? Everything in it is his. He pushed back the oceans and let dry land appear. We know God owns everything because when we came into the world, we had what? Nothing. We had nothing. No clothes on. We had nothing. And when we leave, they're going to give us the bare minimum. Isn't that right? The bare minimum. They're not checkbooks and stocks. There's one lady talk about stocks and bonds and so forth. Expensive pens. None of that stuff is going to go with us. So God owns everything. It belongs to him. So if God claims it as owner, then what are we? We are stewards. Now here are some text again. I will make the PowerPoint slides. This will be available to the treasurer and the Treasury Department. And if they got your email and contact information, they will give this to you. Or if we can get copies of it before you leave, then they'll pass that out. So, but what you have here, this is the workbook. When I come to your churches and I talk about this with stewardship, I have you filling in information so that you can think about this process, because we want people to think about it and how they're relating to it. So again, God owns everything. It's not ours. The problems of the church is not for me to carry to my grave. I'm there to serve faithfully. The church body has to respond to its obligations, and I'm a part of that process. So if God owns everything, then what are we? We are stewards. And the treasurer is the chief steward. Because the treasurer is the custodian of what? All funds. When I talk to church members, I let them know that they are stewards. God owns all of our personal funds. He directs our giving. He's the one who should be driving us. And so with that now, we talk about man as a steward. And I asked them, this text in Luke 12:42 talks about the faithful and wise steward. And when we think about faithful and wise, then that tells us that we can be unfaithful and unwise, doesn't it? I can't begin to tell you the number of churches that I've been to that have gotten themselves in projects to only find themselves at the verge of default. And we had a couple of churches that defaulted and lost everything because they couldn't afford it. But they said, but we prayed about it. And we fasted and had a big celebration. You can pray and fast and do all of that, but remember we talked about being competent. Being competent means just because they can get me in a Lexus, if I only have Chevy money and the oil changes and tires and tune-ups, it's going to be different between a Lexus and a Chevy. So if we operate on Chevy budget, we don't need to be going to the Lexus dealer. It's the same thing with the church. Yes, sister, my colleague from Oakwood University. If the church voted that they put themselves in a position where they're not able to financially sustain themselves, then what I tell the treasurers, first of all, is send the remittance up on time. So again, we're talking about stewardship and the treasurer as a steward, and we're conveying all of that. But the Treasury Department is not the stewardship department. There's a difference between the two, but the treasurer should be knowledgeable of stewardship. How much does the Lord expect me to give? This is always a big question. How much should I give to the Lord? Anybody got a percentage? 10 what? We return the tithe as identified, but how much offering should we give?
It's different. Some are 10 and 5, some are 10 and
So is there a set requirement that the Lord requires? All right. How many say there's not a set requirement? How many says there is something that's suggested that, all right, this is interesting. See the widow here, cheerful giver, what this guy requires. All right, you're going to get this. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 527. The contributions required of the Hebrews for religious and charitable purposes amounted to 1/4 of their income. That was 35%. Tithe plus 25% offering in the Hebrew system. Oh, yeah. See, we talk 10-5, 10-10, and we put our shoulders up, but Hebrews 1/4, patriarchs, and then there's a statement that talks about should we do any less? Yeah, here it is right here, 528. In the days of Israel, the tithe of free will offerings needed to maintain the ordinances of divine service. Should the people of God give any less in this generation? If we believe Christ is coming, what are we holding on to the money for? Why we keep investing in property and plant and equipment, and we see the world crumbling and the call for mission and ministry and services going out? What are we holding on to the money for if we really believe? We don't really believe. And because economics has become such a big part of who we are, we identify ourselves with our checkbooks. So when a man or woman loses their job, they feel like they're nothing. And they jump off in front of a train because they lost half of their stock portfolio. I'm not equipped because I don't have a job. The church people don't want to listen to what I have to say. And that's why before Christ comes in Revelation 13, he's going to strip believers of all of that stuff. All of that stuff will mean nothing. So, 1/4. Is it mandatory? No, but the counsel is there for us. And if we believe that the more we give, the more we receive, why are we on the respirator with our church? Because we really don't believe it. That's why. I know what we say, but our actions don't correspond with that. If we believed it, church schools would be packed. Oh yeah, church schools would be packed. We don't believe it. So we're going to hold on to this stuff and have the title unfaithful. All right. Now we're coming down to the wire now. Church structure. We're not congregational. Congregational church. I was raised in the Baptist church. Pastor, everything centered right on that one corner. We are part of a world church. So what we do with our giving, when the church treasurer withholds the funds, you're affecting the ministry of the world church. Did you know that? There are people all over the world that depend on that offering from that local church member. And when we say we're not going to return it to the conference, basically what we're saying is that we're trying to strangle the whole world church. So we're not a congregational church. Somebody says, well, I'm mad at the conference and the conference treasurer and so forth. That's okay. But it's God's program, it's God's money. Don't strangle the work. Some of your churches wouldn't be alive today and existing today if it wasn't for other churches who were not faithful in their stewardship. Because somebody had to fund the work to go into some of these parts of Mississippi and Alabama and East Tennessee and Kentucky and some of the other. Somebody had to fund money for that. So our faithfulness, and that comes through the conference ministry. Same thing with the union, and then the world church. We have 13 divisions. This is the Seventh-day Adventist church. From the local church to the 13 divisions, we all are breathing off of the same oxygen supplied by the Holy Spirit, and Christ is the head of the church. Are we together? And as treasurers, if nobody else stands on that, we as treasurers, we must stand on that. Because the work will be shut down if we're not faithful. Are you all with me out there? And the Lord is not going to hold us to the same standard as he's going to hold somebody else. Because we know, and our ministry is definable. So this is a quick pop quiz here. What is this right here? Tithe envelope. How many says a tithe envelope? Let me see your hand. Hold on. Give me your hands up. Hold on. Let's say a tithe envelope. Get those hands up. Are y'all ashamed of that? Tithe envelope. All right. Now, who says it's something else? All right. Sister, what is that? Tithe and offering envelope. Now, is there a difference between the two? You see, if it's just a tithe envelope, then we can't do the carpet, we can't get Sabbath school materials, we can't support local church school. Are you all with me out there? We got to turn the air off in the summertime. We got to sit close in the winter and pull out the blankets and so forth, because we can't keep the heat on, because if it's just tithe, the tithe is not staying in the local church. Is it? No. All right, sister, where's it? Talk to me. It's our new treasurer.
I have a question. Yes, ma'am. And this is an honest to goodness, heard from the authority question. I was in a church where it was spoken from the pulpit that if you have paid tithe on your gross, your whole work time, when you retire, you do not have to pay tithe on your Social Security.
All right. This is a stewardship. I'm going to say this, answer this in 30 seconds, and then you have me come. Tell them I come to your church and spend the whole weekend. Social Security, if you return the stewardship, Social Security tells you how much you paid in. If you return tithe faithfully on everything you paid in, and this is the key, and you know that, now once you outlive that, then that's not yours. So that technically becomes your income. But most people who retire to get Social Security, they're so thankful that they're going to be alive. They're going to keep doing what they've been doing. But that's a technicality, and I can imagine with the scribes and Pharisees, but they keep a record. But that's a stewardship. But let me stay on this here, because I don't want to,
I just want to point out that actually you don't pay.
Return.
You only pay half of what you get.
Yeah. Right. They'll give you right. Well, what you outlive, what's not yours, obviously that becomes income. But that's a stewardship. And in there, if you live long enough to collect it. Now, I got an AARP card in my pocket. I just turned 51 yesterday. They've been after me since I was 45, and I finally got it. My kids say, get that discount. So you get the discount, but if you've been faithful all your life, you're going to do what you've been doing. And usually they find, and it's a proven fact in the church, that our seniors are more faithful and committed